Welcome to Sip with Summers, the podcast where we talk about sex, intimacy, and pleasure. Because someone has to, and let's be honest, it may as well be me. I'm your host, Jennifer Marie Summers, board certified sexologist, certified sex coach, menopause coach in training, and your favorite inappropriate friend with a microphone. Around here, we cover everything from why is my libido ghosting me to is it normal to fantasize about pizza during sex? Spoiler alert, yes. So grab a drink, wine, tea, or that weird green powder you keep telling yourself is healthy, and let's get into the good stuff. Because pleasure is your birthright, and awkward is my love language. Let's spill, sip, and say the things most people whisper. Welcome to the show. Hey, everybody, it's me, Jennifer Summers, back for season 2 of Sip with Summers, everyone's favorite podcast where we uncork topics around sex, intimacy, and pleasure. I'm really excited to share that I have completed my certification. I officially am now a certified sex coach and clinical sexologist. I'm really excited to help people feel more confident and connected with their relationships, and also the opportunity to explore their desires and work through any obstacles that they may be experiencing. One of my favorite things about going through this program was the opportunity to really hold the mirror up to myself and see where I had my own limiting beliefs about sex. I was raised Catholic light. The best way to describe it is I was baptized, I wasn't confirmed. We went to church until I was about 5 years old when my sister was born, and then we stopped. But that did not stop the shame around sex. And to my mom's credit, I really don't think that she had any education about it either. The shame gets passed down generation to generation, and I am looking to break the ancestral trauma about pleasure and intimacy, and hopefully be able to empower more people to feel more confident in their own skin. I've worked in the field of women's health since 2006 when I began my journey as a pure romance consultant. Through that experience, I've really learned a lot about sexual health products, anatomy, and different techniques and tips that people can try to have more pleasure in their lives or with their partners. But coaching is such a whole other level of really getting deeper with people, giving permission. A lot of what I do is education, because most of us do not have any type of comprehensive sexual health education growing up, and most of our parents don't know it either. The goal of this podcast is to provide real life education, no censorship, like I get censored on social media. Side note, body parts are not bad words. And lastly, taking you on this journey in season 2 of the new certified sex coach who is trying all of these wild and crazy sex things that I never would have dreamed I'd be exploring before this program. If we are related, I really appreciate your love and your support, but I'm going to tell you that season 2 is going to be more unhinged. If you don't want to know all the dirty details, you might want to stop listening. The Jennifer at the end of season 1 versus Jennifer today is a completely different person. Since my last episode, I ended things with a guy I was dating, and I started exploring more things that I was curious about. The guy I was dating at the time really exacerbated my anxious attachment style. I felt very emotionally unregulated, and almost this feeling of sand falling through my hands, and I'm trying so hard to catch it all, and I can't. Emotional regulation has been a really big part of my journey in the last couple of years. I had to learn how to chill the fuck out and not to get so enamored with people when I meet them, because even though it's not often that I really like someone, the old me would get way too excited and go off the deep end. I think the worst part about things with this guy is I knew better. I knew better than to fall so quickly, but he was doing and saying all the right things, and he was emotionally available and talking about the future, and he introduced me to his family. And to be fair, my sister married her husband 11 months after they met. They've been married for 12 years and have 3 kids. So I know it can happen. And it made me mad because this guy made me think, oh, maybe it's time for this to happen for me. When we broke up, a few days later, he texted me to let me know I had left pants at his house. I didn't think I had left pants at his house. So I asked him to send me a picture of the pants, and guess what? They were not my pants. So that felt like another blow, and I went from sad to angry. I stayed angry for about a month, and then I finally got over it thanks to peer coaching with my school. You cannot beat the opportunity to coach or be coached for free. After that experience, I decided to take a step back from dating, do some more journaling and soul searching and meditating, and really figure out what I do and do not want. And what I realized is that I love the idea of dating and being the object of someone's desires, but on my terms and not their terms. For the longest time, I've dated people on their terms, being more available to them. But now it's time to put my needs first. It's funny how space from a situation really makes you see the bigger picture. It's been about 6 months since we broke up, and now I see what a benefit that experience was for me. It shook me awake. It really made me explore all the things I did not want. And it had me creating stronger, healthy boundaries so I don't keep repeating the same shit over and over again. The day that we broke up, I was in a slump and I knew I didn't want to sit around the house feeling sorry for myself. I discovered a local dungeon was having an educational class that night. I didn't even know what the class was about. I figured it's an opportunity to get out of the house, to be in a space of like-minded people as a clinical sexologist, and maybe I would learn something new that I could share with my clients. So I drive out to the dungeon, I register for the class, and the class is on interrogation and torture. It's not something I want to try out for myself, but I loved learning about it. The biggest takeaway I got from it was how important and sexy consent and negotiation is. I love the idea of having a conversation and laying out all your boundaries, what you do and do not want to do before starting a scene. It made me realize that one of the reasons I haven't felt more comfortable to explore any alternative lifestyles is a safety concern. I've been sexually assaulted, and it's scary to put yourself out there like that. But I see now when you trust someone, you have that consent, and you're able to negotiate your boundaries and hard limits, it can be a very fulfilling opportunity. Now, the second thing I took away from the interrogation and torture session was that when you're working with a dom, you have that consent and that negotiation. However, they have to make you think that even though you like and trust them, that they may withhold things from you. So the demonstration that night, the dom was trying to get a secret out of his sub, and he was doing things to her like ripping her dress open, pinching her. He began to shock her with a cattle prod. And every time he shocked her, he said, "Are you going to tell me your secret?" And she wailed, "No." And then he takes that cattle prod, y'all, and he puts it up to her septum ring. And I was shook. I was convinced, oh my goodness, this lady is going to have to go to the hospital. If he shocks her in her septum nose ring, she might have a stroke. I think I was literally clutching my chest. So as he moves the cattle prod up to her septum ring and says, "Are you going to tell me your secret?" Those no's turned into, "Yes, I'll tell you, I'll tell you, I'll tell you." And I was so grateful she told the secret. But then I remembered when he said, "You have to make them think you're going to hurt them, even though you won't." And that was that moment. And it was like a light bulb went off in my head, and I suddenly understood the consent and the negotiation. I've always been a do it to learn it type of learner. I love to read, but I learn best watching things. It was a really cool experience, and it made me feel better about being single. Since that night, I've attended another dungeon event where I took one of my girlfriends, and I visited hedonism in Jamaica. And I'm really excited to tell you about both of those experiences in future episodes. For now, I would love to finish out this episode with some viewer questions. If you have a question that you'd like to ask the certified sex coach, go to selfmadediva.com and click Ask Me Anything anonymously. I'll come answer these on a later episode. Our first question is, why can I orgasm alone, but I cannot orgasm with my partner? He's doing all the same things. There's a few reasons why women can orgasm alone and not with a partner. One of those is you know your body best, you know what feels good, and there's no pressure to perform. You don't have to make faces or noises to please your partner because you're only focusing on yourself. Another concern can be medication. So there's a lot of medications that affect desire and libido, such as antidepressant, anti-anxiety, blood pressure medication, birth control, allergy pills, and more. There's something like 300 medications that affect libido. It could also be a lack of trust with your partner. It can be an inability to let go. It could be not enough mental stimulation from your partner. Orgasms are in the brain, y'all, not the body. It might be poor communication skills with your partner. So perhaps you don't feel comfortable telling them when they're not doing the right thing. Also, keep in mind that the vagina is not the primary site of pleasure for most women. For most women, it's the clitoris. I also want to give you permission that you have a right to feel pleasure with your partner. So perhaps having an affirmation like, I, Sally, am going to have an amazing orgasm with John tonight. Keep in mind that you cannot make yourself have an orgasm. You have to let it happen. Feel free to visit my website and book a coaching session with me if you want to explore this topic further. Our next viewer question is, any suggestions for consciously dating without using the apps? If you're burnt out on dating apps, I feel you. And there are other ways to meet eligible people in your area. The first step is to get out of the house, because as much as I would love to meet my dream person sitting on the couch, Netflix binging with my cats, you're not going to meet anybody that way. So getting out of the house and doing activities that you enjoy. Meetup.com is a great place to find networking groups in your area with your shared interest. There's matchmaker services. Some of my friends have tried and had great success. So get out of the house. Another option is ask your friends if they know any single people that you may be interested in. Have them set you up on a blind date. And lastly, get yourself in a positive headspace and know that you are a prize, you are a gem, and you deserve everything that you want in life. One of my favorite books that really helps to lift me up when I'm feeling down is You Are a Badass by Jen Sincero. So check out that book and exude that confident, sexy self on your quest to find love. Our next viewer asks, is it normal to get a yeast infection every time I masturbate? And I would say that's not a normal thing to happen. I'm curious what hygiene practices you're using with your self-pleasure. So since I can't ask you in person, I'm going to give you some suggestions on here. Wash your hands before self-pleasure. There's so much bacteria in fingernails, and we do not want those in our intimate areas. Make sure that if you're using a vibrator, that you're cleaning it properly. I had a client once share that she was having bacterial infections after using a vibrator, and it turns out that she got some cheap wipes from Spencer's that had fragrance in them, and it was causing her vaginal irritation. I do recommend my cleansing mist. You can get it at shopwithsummers.com. It is a gynecologically approved cleansing mist for your vibrators. It cleans and disinfects the toy without causing you any irritation, and it's fragrance-free because we should not be putting fragrance into our vaginas. Lastly, make sure that you pee after masturbation. We always hear that we should pee after sex. Masturbation is sex with yourself. So after you're finished with your session, head to the bathroom, wash your hands, urinate, and clean your vibrators properly with a toy cleaner spray. Our next viewer says, do you have any advice on my clitoris being too sensitive after one very short orgasm? It's so frustrating. I want to remind you that while we say the clitoris is the epicenter of pleasure for women, there are other parts of our anatomy that provide a lot of pleasure. So if you're feeling like your clitoris is too sensitive after an orgasm, you could switch to nipple play, massage. You could do some G spot stimulation, massage the labia, and give yourself a break from direct clitoris stimulation. If you still want to have clitoris play and you find it tends to be too sensitive most of the time, some of my clients have done things like put a scarf over the vulva to help make the pleasure less direct and intense. I would really encourage you to do some self exploration. Sometimes when we're with our partners, we can feel a pressure to perform, or we get in our head if something is taking too long. So, laying down with yourself for 30 minutes to an hour, gently caressing and touching your body and discovering where your other pleasure spots reside can help you to then communicate that. Our next viewer asks, how do you deal with your partner when your sex drive is super high and theirs is super low? This is a very common concern that I hear in my coaching practice. And one of the top things that I work with couples on is mismatched desire, where one partner wants it more than the other. There can be a lot of reasons why that's the case. It could be conflicts in the relationship. It could be stress and anxiety at work or in daily life. It could be money. It could be medication. It could be the hormones being off. If you want it every single day and your partner wants it once a month, that can be a big challenge. It can be very easy for the partner with a higher desire to fall into this way of thinking that they're unworthy or unwanted or they're ugly or unlovable, because maybe for that partner, the way that they feel love and connection is through sexual touch. There are some options for resolution. The first is coaching, where we can really go deep and find out what's going on behind the scenes. But without knowing anything about your sexual history or how frequent you all are actually doing it, some things I would recommend would be to take sex off the table and focus on pleasurable sensations. Sometimes for the partner that has a lower desire, they can really feel that any type of touch is a segue to sex. And so perhaps you put your hand on their shoulder to be gentle and loving, but they take you putting your hand on their shoulder as, if I give in to this, that means we're going to have sex. Sometimes couples can not even be touching or communicating well because of that fear. When you take sex off the table and instead focus on pleasurable sensations, which means touching non-genital parts of the body, it allows that trust and connection to rebuild and to feel intimacy together. Another option would be a sex toy. If you want to have more orgasms than your partner is willing to give, taking care of yourself with a vibrator can be really beneficial. And perhaps if your partner is open to it, they can be in the bed with you, giving you gentle, loving caresses and kisses as you self-pleasure yourself. Again, I want to assure you that a lot of people deal with this concern. And if it's something you want to explore further, I'd love to invite you to set up a consultation call with me. Our next viewer asks, what can I do to become more comfortable asking for what I want in the bedroom? It can feel really scary to ask for what we want when we're afraid that maybe our partner is going to think we're weird or gross or they don't want to do that thing. So we get stuck in our head and we don't ask for what we really want. I have some direct and some indirect ways that you can go about this. I'll start with the indirect because my gut says that's really what you're looking for right now. So indirectly asking, you can do that through writing little spicy, sexy sticky notes. I want you to meet me in the bedroom at 8 o'clock naked. Or a spicy text. I can't wait to have a hot makeout session with you tonight. Directly asking is taking a big breath and just saying the damn thing. The last thing I'll recommend here is a beautiful combination of both direct and indirect communication around this topic, and that is the yes, no, maybe exercise. This exercise is a list of different sexual and sensual activities that you can do with a partner and allows you to rank it. Is it a yes, a no, or a maybe later? Many of my couples enjoy filling this out and being able to identify where their desires align, where there's some curiosity, and the hard no's. If you would like a copy of this exercise, it'll be in the show notes. Our next viewer asks, what advice would you give someone who is too in their head while being intimate? Do you have any advice on how to overcome that? It can be a real struggle when we get stuck in our head because when you're in your head, you are not in your body. And when you're not in your body, it's that much harder to experience pleasure and orgasm. Some simple techniques for getting more into your body are breathing exercises, because when you focus on your breath, it helps you get out of your head and into your body again. One technique a friend of mine shared with me is that she started to ask her partner to tell her to relax when they begin getting intimate. And she shared with me that when her partner tells her to relax, she can feel her whole body relaxing and getting more into that pleasure and intimate moment with her partner. Another thing that has helped a lot of my female-bodied clients are the enhancement creams that I sell. One of my client favorites is our Pleasure Serum. It's an aloe vera-based serum that you apply 1 pump to the clitoris, and it can also go on the labia. It heightens arousal, and it has L-arginine in it, which is a vasodilator. It creates more oxygen and blood flow to the clitoris, which really helps you to get all of those intrusive thoughts out of your brain and gets you really laser focused on your clitoris. Another thing that you might consider trying is some type of meditation with your partner before you get into the sexual acts. That could be as simple as holding hands, closing your eyes, and breathing together. I hope that helps. And we have one final viewer question today, and that is, how can I be assertive with what I like and don't like in the bedroom without being an ass? I want to tell you that asking for what you want in life, in or out of the bedroom, does not make you an ass, even if you're being assertive. It's important to remember that our partners are not mind readers. We can't expect them to know what we want, no matter how in love you are. So I want to help change your thinking that asking for what you want is not making you an ass. You might consider trying lowering your voice and being really sweet and saying, baby, I really like it when you do fill in the blank. Can you do that some more? You can take their hand and place it on the areas of your body that you want them to give more attention to. Or perhaps even have a conversation and let them know all of the things that you really like that they do and that you would really appreciate if they could do more of that. And maybe say, do you want to do it right now? I think there's these preconceived notions that I've seen on my social medias that we don't want to teach a partner. They should know what to do. But keep in mind that we all have different areas where we enjoy pleasure. There's different levels of pressure. Some people like less or more pressure. And we simply cannot expect another person to know all of these things just because they've had sex in the past. So take a breath and ask and get more of what you want in life. And that's a wrap on this episode of Sip with Summers, where we laughed, learned, and probably said clitoris more times than your high school health teacher ever did. If you liked what you heard, be a gem and leave a review, share it with your favorite group chat, or send it to that friend who really needs to hear this. You know the one. For more tips, tools, and slightly inappropriate jokes, follow me on social or head to summersoflove.com. Until next time, stay curious, stay turned on, and as always, keep sipping.